Yeah, I couldn't sleep. I just had to know what happens next. Ready to get started? Welcome to Academy After Dark. I'm your host, Dean Bastard, and I'm going to be reviewing Beastars, Chapter 4, A Bad Day Even for Rabbits. I'm glad I didn't wait, because this is most definitely an interesting chapter. We pick up right where we left off, from a different perspective. It's from the perspective of the rabbit that Lugosi had in his clutches from last chapter, the one he was chasing. He caught her, and while she's in his arms, um, she has a thought because she thinks she's gonna die. She's terrified. She's like, "Am I really gonna die here?" And just like with Tim, uh, her herbivores have this internal monologue right before they die that gives you some insight into who they are as I'm just gonna say a person. um, you get insight into who they are, and right off the bat, her last thoughts, thinking the last thoughts she had were, at least they're not here, and then you cut to a scene of just people laughing at her. We find out the rabbit's name is Haru, and we go into a flashback of what happened 4 hours prior to her being attacked by Lugosi. And I've got to say, it's pretty damn sad what's going on in this rabbit's life. So, 4 hours ago, before this all happened, Haru was in the cafeteria looking for a place to sit. She had just gotten her food. Apparently, they're having what's it called? Carrot and bean chowder. Sounds delicious. Anyway, uh, I don't know. I find Haru very relatable in the situation she finds herself in. This very much feels like a school, and I love when they do stuff like this because I had questions like, "Oh, okay, what do they eat?" Naturally, herbivores eat, fruits, vegetables, legumes, stuff like that, and carnivores, you know, I don't know what the carnivores eat yet. So maybe I don't know. My go-to would be meat, but how would that work in a society like this? So anyway, maybe we'll get to that later. Maybe that's important. So she's looking for a place to sit, and strangely enough, no one's sitting with Haru, and I'm wondering why no one's sitting with Haru. Even the people that have no one sitting with them. She's polite. She goes up to him. She's like, "Hey, can I sit with you?" They always come up with some excuse. "No thanks, I'm waiting on my friend." Um, and it was extremely noticeable when she went up to a group of people and asked, "Hi, is it okay if I sit here?" They just ignore her completely, which is strange. So when that happens, my first inclination is like, okay, um, maybe this rabbit has reputation, you know, because this was most definitely purposeful from the people that interacted with her, just enough to turn her away, like, no thanks, don't want to sit next to you. So my suspicions were correct. Haru decides she's gonna eat outside, outside of the building, on the side, away from people. Her friend comes to visit her. I believe her name is Sally. She looks like a chipmunk or something like that. So Sally comes up, and she's just checking on Haru. And Haru says, "Oh, well, if you're so worried about me, why don't you eat dinner with me?" Some friend Sally is, because she just says, "No thanks." She's really mad at you, and she really doesn't want to be seen with Haru right now. It's kind of fucked up, really. So Sally, while she's leaving, she just advises Haru to just lay low for a while. So I'm wondering with what Haru did, to make whoever's angry at her, angry at her. But also, you know what? I don't even think they're friends. They're roommates, so they definitely know each other. But much different they don't seem to have a lot of rapport with each other. The same way I look at Jack and Legosie's relationship. Sally doesn't really seem like someone Haru can talk to. In fact, Haru's whole scene, um, just from the get go, is just her being alone, even when she has like a roommate, you know. So I thought that was interesting in a sad sort of way. So Haru's just chilling there, enjoying her food. It's still good even if she has to eat it alone. So there's a lot of independence to this character just from that one scene. Um, she's definitely not moping about, even though she's in this type of situation because I've been in school before. I've personally never been turned down to sit at someone's table. I'm big and I'm imposing. Who would deny me? But anyway, but I've definitely seen that happen to other people, and it feels bad just having to witness it, and it feels even worse being on the other end of it. So just as a rule, even when I was at school, like in college and stuff, I've always offered people a table. If I see, say like if they're new or whatever, and they don't have a spot to sit, this seat's open. Come sit, come eat with me, because there's nothing worse than isolation. Like there's nothing worse than being lonely, in my opinion. Even if you are, um, even if you are independent, you always, people we're social beings. We're social creatures, and being isolated like that, it hurts. It does. So off the bat, just seeing Haru like that, it was instantly relatable. So we move along. Before that, we see Haru. She's in her head and she's mentioning how um, some sometimes herbivores they have a fast heartbeat, so sometimes their body shakes violently. And she's like, if this continues, I might pass out. Now, I felt like that was an offhanded comment, but looking into it, even though it seems like Haru isn't phased by what's going on around her, I very much feel like it is kind of getting to her, in a sense, and it's having noticeable effects in her get feeling kind of anxious from being lonely, like the way she is from being isolated. Because rabbits are social creatures as well. So what happens, and looking at this through the lens of an animal, what happens when you have a rabbit being shunned by their peers? um, you know, Not having a social circle. There's bound to be some anxiety that comes with that. And that's why I feel like her heart was beating the way it was and she was shaking, even though we're not in her head and she's like, oh, this sucks. I don't have any friends, stuff like that. And she's definitely coping with it. But at the same time, I feel maybe in the back of her head, she's like, this freaking sucks. So she decides to go back to the dorm, to her dormitory. Um, and while she's heading up the spiral staircase, I thought it was a nice design. Paru did. She gets some walnuts, some cracked walnuts. It's not funny, but she gets some cracked walnuts thrown at her. And then we are introduced to um, the person who's apparently spreading rumors about her. So we get introduced to Mizuki, the Harlequin rabbit, right? So, to put it bluntly, Mizuki's kind of a bitch. Straight up, her and her little posse. Um, she's one. She seems like one of those popular females. That has it all going on. Thinks she's the shit, and she's picking on Haru. Um, by spreading rumors. Haru's like, well, she's like, oh, it's them. She just has this look on her face, like, it's them, not them again, whatever. So Haru's not having it. And something I like about Haru's character, Haru bites back. She might look like this this cute little rabbit. That's the first impression. Beastars, I'm starting to notice and pick up that they really play into the first impressions. Don't be deceived by first impressions of someone, because my first inclination with Haru is to look at her and it's like, ah, oh, damn, it's a cute rabbit. It's a cute bunny rabbit. You know, she's so small. Look at her, must be protected. In this chapter, completely flipped that perspective in a way that it, how do I describe it? It made me see Haru for Haru in a sense, I guess, just from her interactions with people and how she deals with adversity, like being shunned and stuff. Definitely have some respect there. So, um, Mizuki, the Harlequin rabbit, is pissed off because Haru slept with her boyfriend, apparently, right? So, that's why she's angry. High school drama. And she's like, you have a lot of audacity thinking you can break up a full-bred couple. I'll have you know the Harlequin rabbits are an endangered species. A common dwarf rabbit like you has no business meddling in purebred affairs. So there's definitely a lot of elitism in there. And it's kind of a trip listening to this Harlequin rabbit just mouth off to Haru like that. Haru doesn't. Haru's like, shut your trap, bitch. And she just chucks a walnut at Mizuki, right? And she's like, I'll have you know. She's walking away from them, by the way, because she's just done with their shit. She's like, I'll have you know, your boyfriend kissed me, you know? He kissed me first. And he went a little too far afterwards. Did Haru necessarily deny him? No. They most definitely had sex. It's even hinted at that they went further than that, right? And Mizuki, when she found out somehow, I don't know if he told her or whatever, but she found out somehow, and she decided that she was just gonna spread rumors about Haru. My 2 cents on this: spicy drama. Why isn't Haru in the drama club, honestly? But anyway, my 2 cents on this: who's in the right here? Does Mizuki have a right to be angry? Most definitely. Is it right that her anger is directed at Haru and not her boyfriend? This is a dilemma that happens in real life, and I like the reality of the situation and how Haru even addresses it. She's like, if you're so angry, take it up with your boyfriend. He's the one that kissed me. I didn't necessarily say no, but he's the one that took it too far. A person like that doesn't make for a very good boyfriend. I love that Haru fires back. She fires back, and she gets you to think about, oh man, who's right and who's wrong. On one hand, she didn't necessarily start it. On the other hand, well, she decided to finish it, so what does that say about her? She's still this boyfriend stealing. Where's the boyfriend being implicated in any of this? You know, your attention is being drawn to the two, but what about the third? It's controversial, and I love that these questions are being brought up when it comes to relationships and stuff like that. Very much like high school. These are situations and scenarios that happen all the time, all the time. You know, from the love triangles, the rumors, stuff like that. So, Mizuki gets pissed. She picks up a bucket and she just douses Haru with water, right? And pretty much just calls her trash and is just on her way. So, Haru, she goes into a bathroom. She finds a stall, and so Haru finds a stall just to be with herself, to let her clothes dry for a little bit. And while she's doing that, she's like, man, She really went at it like she was in the right. And she's like, my clothes should be dry enough by now. So she puts on her uniform again. She goes to a mirror. And I like this scene. She's looking at herself in the mirror. And it's kind of like introspection. What's happening? She's self reflecting, literally and figuratively. She looks in the mirror and she sees herself. Now, look at that from an outside viewer perspective with no context, right? You look at her looking at herself in the mirror and you just see a small white rabbit. And they play with first appearances very smartly. I like what Paru did here. She gives us a little insight into how how Haru thinks and what's going on in her mind, because she very much is being bothered by this, even though she doesn't, she carries herself very well for the situations that she's put in, and for what's going on with her. She decides that she's not going to go back to the dorm for a little bit. She's going to wait it out just a little bit longer. But while she's looking in the mirror, she's reflecting, and she's like, you know, boys are only attracted to me because they think I'm vulnerable. You know, they look at me and they think I'm a vulnerable rabbit that must be protected. They just get the instinct to protect Haru because she's small, she's vulnerable. You know, and when I was looking and I was reading that panel, and I'm like, there's a lot of self awareness here that's going on. And I love to see that with characters. I love to see them being introspective, them being self aware with their actions. And the thing about Haru, uh, you get to find out that she might be kind of promiscuous. I don't want to use, the alternative word to that, but you get the you get the you get the inclination that she might be promiscuous. This isn't the first boy that she's been with. Apparently, she's been with multiple boys. Um, you know, so there was that, and I found it interesting is how after afterwards she says that once they sleep with me and they find out that I'm not who they thought I was, who they thought she was, they dump her, and then they just go about their business and they leave. That sucks. So if it's like that, if you're being judged by your appearance, she's being objectified in a sense. How can you trust anyone? If how can you trust anyone if you go into it, if you're talking with someone and they're judging you off of your first appearance and not as you as a person? That's what I get from that. And that's where I kind of feel for Haru. Definitely her actions are most definitely questionable, but because she clearly doesn't turn down any advances, but at the same time I'm looking at this through an animal perspective, and the stereotype associated with rabbits that Beastars is playing into. Oh, it's so cute, it's adorable, and what's the more negative stereotype with rabbits? It's easy. Fuck like rabbits. Rabbits are known to be, very sexually active, constantly humping, uh, you know, constantly humping, has a lot of babies, stuff like that. So, can we necessarily blame Haru? We don't know if this is just her natural inclination or if this is her instinct, but I find it interesting to talk about. And I'm looking forward to, the next chapter and finding out more if she lives. I'm pretty sure she's gonna live. She's on like volume 3 or something like that. So, anyway, continuing on, it's late at night, and the scene starts to look more and more familiar. She gets to the little fountain area where Lugosi is standing guard, unbeknownst to her, and she senses that she's being watched by somebody. It's Lugosi. So she's like, oh my god, is this the person who killed that alpaca? And then once fear sets in, we get back to Haru's inner monologue at that moment. She's like, well, if you're gonna kill me, just make it quick. Make it quick. I offer myself to you. That's sad in a way, because even though she's saying how you should know, it's her inner monologue. You should know something. I've wasted my life. I offer myself to you. This gives you a lot of insight into Haru's, how she's really feeling on the inside. It was hinted at when she was shaking outside, and you kind of get confirmation on how she's really feeling when she is standing face to face with her, uncertain demise right here when Legoshi chases her down. Chases. Even though she said she offered herself to Legoshi, she doesn't know it's Legoshi. At least I don't think she does. She doesn't know it's Legoshi. Even though she said she offers herself to him, she runs anyway. She runs. So I feel like there's some conflict in her that's telling her, like, I wanna I wanna die. I probably deserve this. Because in the beginning of the chapter, the last thing she was thinking when she saw a group of people laughing at her, they were saying, "Ha, you got what you finally deserved," and stuff like that. Just terrible things. And now she's in a situation where she could die. And deep down, I feel like it's kind of a sort of depression where she wants to die, maybe, but in reality, no, she wants to live. And that's why she runs. And she even says, I haven't even, I haven't loved and I haven't lost. I haven't loved and I haven't lost. So, very much like Tim, she still has a lot to live for. And she recognizes that. And I feel like that's why she runs. Outside of her own instincts and stuff, her natural instinct is to live, even though, she's placed in a bad situation. We don't know how long she's been bullied, but I'm going to guess it's been for quite some time. That's just my guess, because reputation, it spreads like wildfire, but for it to stick the way I feel like it has been, and for people to treat her the way they have been doing, I feel like this has been going on for a little bit longer. Like her reputation kind of precedes her. I would like to see how far that reputation goes, but we'll see. So, when Legoshi finally catches her, she wants him to. She's in her head again, and she wants Legoshi to swallow her whole. She doesn't want any part of her left behind, so they won't find out that she died. Because she, even when facing death, she doesn't want to be. She doesn't want to be laughed at. She just wants to disappear. Because she felt. Sure, so I feel. Because she feels like she was never there in the first place. You know, she would die how she felt, never being seen. That's what I got from that scene, and that's why I was super sad. So you see her crying. You see her crying there from her realization. Very depressing. I wasted my life, and that's pretty much it. And you just end on the scene with Legoshi having her, like, in his claws, like embracing her in kind of like this pose, and that's where it ends. And it says that Legoshi is struggling as well from the resonance that's happening between the two. I don't know what that means. Is it that they're both lonely? Is that what that is? I personally thought it was from Legoshi's instincts kicking in at that time. He's struggling with what he more than likely wants to do to the rabbit, Haru. So, I'm interested to find out what happens next. So, if I were to give this chapter in terms of character progression, well, it's a character introduction. Probably 10 out of 10, I guess. Just because of it's a juicy chapter. There's a lot to talk about. I like Haru a lot. A very controversial character. I want to see more of Haru. I want to see more of her mindset. And I want to see if she lives. Pretty sure she does. I want to see her grow. I want to see what's going on. I want to see more of what's going on with her. So, it'll be very interesting to see the progression of things. Will Legosi eat her? Is she food? Another thing, well, the last thing. The last thing she says that actually stuck out, everyone just views her as food. All the boys just view her as food. Just an object, just a meal. You know? If she's going around sleeping with boys, it can be made, an argument can be made is because, well, why do you give yourself to them? If that's the case, no one's going to respect you if you do that. There's a lot of arguments that can be made for Haru. If she is as promiscuous as the chapter was leading me to believe, and there's just so much to talk about with that. Talk about her actions. So I'm interested. I'm interested to see how this progresses. They just view her as food. They just view her as something to be protected. You know? They don't see her for her. That's the scene I get. Because like a Disney movie, like when Mulan was looking in the mirror, what does my reflection show? Who I am on the inside. Don't know if I butchered those lyrics, but that's pretty much what I got from when she was looking in the mirror. Like, you can even do it right now. Look at yourself in the mirror, right? What do you see? You're going to, more than likely, you're going to say, oh, it's just me. But now ask yourself, what do other people see me as when they look at me? That's interesting. That's most definitely something to think about. That's self-awareness. And I want to talk about it. So hopefully I see more of Haru. Definitely interesting. Can't wait to find out what happens next. I've officially run out of things to talk about. So with that, hope you enjoyed this. I'll see you during the next video. Ciao.